Hey friends, Sumit here. Thanks for tuning into this episode of Just One Thing. I want to take a brief moment and let you know that this is episode 2 of a two-part series on client onboarding with Doug Spurling, who is filling in for Tom, and is someone I believe to be a master at designing and implementing systems. If you haven't checked out part 1 already, then I would invite you to click on the link below and get caught up on the foundations of choreographing the perfect client experience, the importance of finding that balance between personalized touchpoints and automation, and how reducing the client's overwhelm should be your true north in building a culture of long-term client loyalty. And if you've checked out part 1, then let's just get into part 2 here, where we cover the other milestones of onboarding. Welcome back, Doug. So last time we left it at just talking about day 1, day 2, day 3. That was the most critical pieces. The person's in. It got me thinking about one thing, and then I'll talk about the rest of the stuff. You also said consumption goes down. People are not reading those emails. What do you do about those people who are not reading your onboarding? Because as far as they're concerned, they might be still overwhelmed, right? They don't know about my zone. They don't know about what am I supposed to be doing if I am feeling sore. So how are you trying to shepherd them in again and continue with the choreograph that you talked about in our last episode?
Yeah, so that's a good. I'm glad you brought that up. That's why I don't lean or rely heavily on any type of email onboarding autoresponder, whatever term you want to use, any automation behind onboarding. Again, it's in place. I wouldn't remove it. However, I'm not going to count on it. So where we kind of help with that is, generally speaking, you will find that at least in the beginning, and this is probably true for a client's entire life cycle with you, is their attendance will dictate if they're overwhelmed or not. Because if you are completely overwhelmed, you are going to not show up as much. Because you're overwhelmed, it's not as important, you're going to start making excuses, etc. So we rely very heavily, to give a plug to Anomaly, we rely very heavily on the dashboard that tells us for those that are at risk. We do a ton of attendance metrics to pay attention to people's attendance. We use different styles of reach out, texting reach outs, phone call reach outs. And I can talk more about the systems of those, but trying to connect with people outside of the gym to check in, because I know I'm a reader, I would prefer to read, but I know there's a lot of people that we send them a quick video and they'll watch the video. I know for me, if a video is over, 20, 30 minutes long, I'm not gonna watch it unless you ask me to, right? So people's consumption's different. Some people like to talk on the phone. Some people like to text. So not being hung up on, really, it's about, when we think, again, onboarding, we're trying to build this connection, right? We're trying to build this connection. We're trying to make this, I think of it as like a blanket. We're trying to tie those knots tighter together. So the more you can connect with them, you just have to figure out how they connect. Some people are going to read those emails. Some people are going to need the text of we have a process if somebody doesn't show, a no-show text, hey, missed yet your session today. That can help. So ultimately, it would come back to, how are you throughout their whole journey, but specifically in the beginning, while the habits are being built, how are you connecting with these people?
That's excellent. Doug, since attendance is such a big pillar, as you will, to drive and reduce overwhelm, for you to gauge what's happening, are there other pillars like that you look at outside of attendance?
Attendance is probably number 1, number 2, and number 3. Okay. We, as far as what we can measure, I haven't found, and be curious if there's any other thoughts, always open to it, in the beginning, what constitutes, in our business, because it's customer service based, as a client stays with you, there's a lot you can't measure, right?
Right.
We were actually just having a team meeting before this, and we were talking about, what makes the difference between a client that is, you really feel is a part of the community, they're immersed in the community, versus they're just here to work out, right? Like, and as a gym owner, you have clients that they're just a part of that community, but how do you measure that, right? And our only tried and true way is different metrics around attendance. We look at, number of visits a week. We have a weekly target for total visits a week. We want to make sure that's on track. We have a metric for at risk, what we call at risk, which is people who we pull it every Monday, and that is people who did not come in the previous week. Those people are at risk because they didn't show up last week, and so we give them targeted reach outs. So really paying attention to that, and then kind of behavior change, behavior psych 101, rewarding what you want repeated. So we reward when somebody hits 10 visits. We reward when somebody hits 100 visits, 250 visits. So I do think, ultimately this business that we're in comes down to usage. You might run a different model than me. Yep. You might have different staff structures. You might be online, offline, hybrid. I don't know. But either way, especially if you're a training gym price point where you're $200, $300, $400 a month for a membership, you can't run it like a health club and be based on not you. Those people want it not to be used, right?
Yep.
For us, usage is number one. So through onboarding, and then carry that through their whole life cycle, paying attention to usage and which is attendance in our case, will dictate if they're going to stay and if they're enjoying it and loving it. And then second to that would be things like results. We're always trying to find ways other than usage and hitting the milestones, hitting the attendance milestones, recognizing for hitting those milestones, looking at other performance metrics, like we use the InBody to show the people, they're paying to get most likely a physical result. So at some point, yes, they'll stick through for a while, but at some point they do want to see the 20-pound goal weight loss that they had. Right. So using something like the InBody, we structure that on a regular basis to be done. Whether whatever software you might use or way to track workouts to show, Susie improved, 10% in her bench press or whatever it may be. Those I would say are also important, but certainly not as important as attendance.
Perfect. Got it. So now 3 days have gone, you're looking at attendance. What next? What's the next stage of onboarding? Is it 7-day check-in? Is it 15-day check-in? What's happening? Tell us through.
So we do an every other, assuming that they are, which I know most training gyms offer some type of trial in the beginning. Right. And even if they're not a trial, we keep the same rhythm, a weekly check-in. And this is not, we at this point don't do all of them in appointment format. Not all of these are scheduled appointments, but we have trackers and reminders built in within our staff, within our systems, to check in with people on a weekly basis. And that's both, of course, continuing to check in on how they're liking it and if they're feeling overwhelmed and stuff, but also if they're on a trial, we got to get them converted onto a membership, right? So there's the sales piece of it as well. There's also, we were just meeting about this the other day, there's also the referral piece. Going back to that welcome bag, something else that we put in that welcome bag as part of onboarding is a gift card that they can give to somebody. And we want to build into our onboarding a follow-up to say, hey, who'd you give the gift card to? Because we noticed that we weren't getting as many gift cards back as we thought. So check-ins like that on a weekly basis. And then that goes for the first month. And then broader than that to kind of wrap up the whole onboarding. And I can speak a little bit to recognition too, because I do think recognition is part of onboarding, but slightly separate from a pure logistics of onboarding. We do an InBody every 30 days. So they'll have their InBody on their first day. We schedule one out. So that would be like if you go back, day 1 appointment, day 2 appointment. Those weekly check-ins are literally, email, text, phone call, how's things going, not a formal kind of appointment. But on day 30, they have another in-body because they're now 30 days in. And that's our opportunity to say, okay, you've been here 30 days. Let's do another in-body. How are results going? That's a sit down. And at that point, it's okay, let's do another one in 30 days, or nope, you are good with doing one every 90 days. You're frustrated with results, so let's set you up with a meeting with a coach, whatever it may be. But that really, from a logistical standpoint, should take care of the onboarding.
Okay, perfect, got it. One of the things that I hear a lot of people talk about is all our clients are different. Well, so right, like someone's coming with something, even though we're providing individualized training. So does your onboarding, and you spoke about in I think earlier this episode or the one before, about hitting 10 milestones, right? Are you checking off those 10 milestones? Well, I have two questions, I guess. One is the 10 milestone the consistent experience irrespective of who you are? And or is it further segregated because this person is in for weight loss as a goal and this person is in for being pain-free, and therefore the onboarding would be different? I think that's a two-part question.
Yeah.
Take it out where you want to.
Sure. So, I mean, from a client experience standpoint, in my eyes, a client's the same, right? Okay. Assuming that you are fairly defined in your target market, I would say from a client experience standpoint, your goal, like I want to know your goal, but your goal, whether it's to lose 20 pounds or to rehab a ACL, your onboarding is not going to change. What of course will change is in the model that you run, is the client doing a walking lunge, or are they doing a lying glute bridge because they can't do lunges because of their knees? That's the training piece of it, and that's where your coach development and your programming systems and your training systems come into play. But as far as choreographing the client experience, assuming that your target market is fairly niched down, they all basically want the same client experience. I'm not saying they want the same result. I'm not saying they want the same program, the same exercises, but the overarching experience needs to be the same. Then what you learn over time.
Got it. Okay. The milestones. What are those 10 milestones if you had to rattle them off? And then more importantly, which one are the most important ones that you would say, if I'm a training gym who's just getting into this, I should have at least these 3 or 4 or 5 pieces, or if I can't have all 10.
Sure. Yeah. So we hit on a lot of them already in these first couple episodes. Milestone 1 being, your first success session, your day 1, your sales consult. Milestone 2, milestone 3 being the first 2 days. I think they are drastically those 2 days, in my opinion, like the whole. You cannot redo a Thursday 2 p.m. session on, August 25th. You can't. Like, the time has passed. So the nailing the first couple, as a client builds trust with you, as they build a relationship with you, just like people in your life, they're going to be, they still want to be consistent, but they're going to be a little bit more forgiving. Not saying you should be showing up late or being all kinds of inconsistent, but they're going to be a little bit forgiving. But the judgment of, is this the place for me, I feel happens within the first 2 or 3 sessions.
Got it.
Is this the place for me, right? So day 1, day 2, then we go to that day 30, right? That day 30 is our technically our 4th milestone. That is where they have been here a month. They have, if you recall, their second in-body, which is the tool we use to measure the physical results. That for me is a good milestone. 1, you've most likely made it past a second buying decision. You've either converted from a trial. You're if you're on a 21-day trial, a 14-day trial, you've converted past that. And hopefully, if my team is good at what they do, which I know they are, you will see a result on that in-body 30 days in. Right?
Yep.
So that would be another milestone. The following milestone is actually shortly after that, which has been a long milestone of ours for a long time, which is the 6-week milestone, 42 days in. And 42-day in milestone, depending upon what kind of model you run, is very, very cool because there's a lot at play there at 42 days. One, if you do monthly, which side note, I always recommend gym owners do, if you do monthly billing, they have now been billed twice, right? Because they're now in their second bill, which means they are making another buying decision. Do I want to keep paying for this? Also, if you do, which I know a lot of training gyms do, monthly programming, where the clients receive a new program every month, from a training perspective, they're now in their second program. So they can, they're just deeper into the experience. What we like to do at 6 weeks is we will give them a personalized letter, handwritten letter mailed to them, focused on a shout out of their first 6 weeks. So it could be, hey, awesome job hitting 15 workouts in your first 6 weeks. Love working with you. Looking forward to the next, 6 years together or whatever. Just super personalized, mailed out. We have a tracker in place with our team where Brian on our team every Monday pulls who has letters due for 6 weeks that week, and boom, 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 coaches write it. They go out in the mail on Friday. So 6 weeks is a big milestone. The next milestone after that is day 90. So day 90 would be milestone 6. Day 90 is an interesting one because you are now 3 months in. And what we found at this point, for context, I've been running this gym I've owned it now coming up on 10 years. So I would like to think I have 10 years of mistakes and data. So at day 90, I feel like people start to question, like, the grace period of I'll stick with it it's past, right? Like, I'll give this 3 months, right? And that's anecdotal. I don't have any hard data for that, but that's like, I'll give this, that whole saying, I'll give it a couple months, right? And they really want to see, do I jive with the community? Do I have relationships with the coaches? Is this going to be my home? Is this going to be my third place? And then also we have a 90-day results guarantee. So we built into our sales process not only a 30-day kind of broad satisfaction guarantee, but a 90-day results guarantee. We guarantee that you will see results within 90 days. So we have a sit down at the 90-day mark. Make sure you got results. We use the InBody for that. So that's another big milestone. The next milestone would be day 180, which is 6 months in. 6 months in is basically a duplicate of the 6 week. So they've been here 6 months. We don't want them. I found that this milestone was big because if we don't personally recognize them at this milestone, they might feel forgotten because they're not quite a veteran who's like been here for years, but they are past like the newbie stage where they need all kinds of attention, right? So 6 months in, we have a tracker built out just like the 6 weeks. They get a handwritten letter from a coach. Awesome job being here 6 months. Proud of you, et cetera, et cetera. Just recognition, personal shout out 6 months in. So that would be the next milestone. The next 2 milestones, so if you're following me, I know I'm going fast, but that's milestone 7. Milestones 8 and 9 are years 1 and 2. So hitting the 1 year anniversary and the 2 year anniversary. And that's really just, ultimately deciding why are people not making it past the first year, which if you do 12-month memberships is a renewal period. And then the second year, we have, visits clubs like 250 visits, 500 visits. We're trying to get their name on there, but really just trying to, I think what's helpful for the milestones is every client is at one of these milestones. And at every milestone, there's a drop off. Like there are people that make it to day 90 milestone, but don't make it to day 180 milestone, or they make it to 180, but they don't make it to 1 year. And if you can categorize everybody there and study, why did that client not get that milestone? Was it a process? Do we need to update our programming? I mean, there's something going back to, there has to be a better way. There's something. But here is, I'll end this milestone thing with milestone 10. I actually think is the coolest milestone. So milestone 10 is, and this is not unique for every business, not specific for every fitness business, but specific to ours, which is approximately 34 months. Okay. 34 months. 34 months is, you can round that up to 3 years. So there's a lot at play in the fitness industry at 3-year mark, if you think about it. One, if you average 3% churn every month times 12 months, that's 36% of your clients every year will churn, will leave. That means times 3, every 3 years, 100% of your clients are churning. Now, I'm not saying you don't have people that have been with you longer than 3 years, but your churn rate is going to increase. And that's at 97%, which is really strong retention, right? So you have a churn rate. You have basically every 3 years, in my eyes, the culture and community of your gym is just different.
That is perfect. What I loved about this, Doug, is like, these milestones like that. And I was just in my mind just thinking, okay, he said 10, maybe he's going to look somewhere, but no, you just rattled them off. You knew exactly. And I love the point about 34 months. There's a method behind the madness. It's just not year 3. It is very particularly 34 months. So, so thanks for sharing that. Like, I think that this.
Yeah, and for context, Sumit, sorry to cut you off, but for context, that number is referred to length of engagement. We got that from Chris Cooper. Length of engagement. Every gym can track that. It's take all of your clients, how long have they been with you, divide it by the number of clients. That tells you your average client. So our average client stays with us 34 months. So I'm constantly looking at, how can I make that 35 months, 36 months? Because every time somebody stays past 34, it's going to bring it up. But if somebody leaves before 34 months, it's going to bring it down. So, if your leg is increasing, if your length of engagement is increasing, then your operations are getting better and your experience is getting better.
Yeah, 100%. And now I have to ask you, because since you've talked about leg, I'm a big follower about legs and arms and all that good stuff. How do you handle suspensions in the leg calculation, or people who are buying packages? How the hell do you do that?
If I had that answer, I would probably, I don't know. I don't know if anybody has that answer. That is, suspensions is well, first of all, let me talk about sessions and packages. I know some people still do it. We don't do any of that. So we don't have to, I'm kind of anti-session, anti-package. Not saying they're bad for everybody, but for our business, with our team size, with our overhead, with our operations, it's not worth somebody to go buy a 5-pack of sessions for us. It's just not, it's not going to move the needle that much. So everything is monthly reoccurring memberships. The simplest way, and we don't even have a software, as you know, that can track leg. It is manual. And all we do is we have a list of every client. We have a list, column 1, client name. Column 2 is what month they're on for their membership. On the first of every month, I have a staff member go through. It's part of his job every month, goes through and adds a month to it if they're still active. If they're suspended or canceled, they get off. For sake of simplicity, and because you've been in some of my coaching calls, we treat suspensions like a cancellation.
Got it.
And ultimately, when we think KPI tracking, we always want to make sure we're just comparing apples to apples and not apples to oranges. So personally, I think, talking out loud here, it's less important how you track it and more important that you track it consistently.
I agree with that.
Since I count suspensions as a cancellation and I count it as gravy, as bonus if they do come back, I now have data of 10 years. So really, that's why we have KPIs, is to look at and say, like, we're filming this in August right now. August is a terrible month in the fitness industry. So I can look at my KPIs from the last 10 Augusts and say, where are we at August to August? Because comparing August to September in any KPI, whether we're looking at suspensions, leg, leads, anything, it's not comparable. But as long as we're tracking it the same, that's the importance of KPI tracking. Is I can say, okay, last August we lost 12 people. This August we've lost 15 people. What's going on? That's a little bit higher than last August, and we can troubleshoot it. Or the suspensions are higher, or whatever it may be. So less important about how you track it, and more that it's just tracked the same way, so that you can use the KPI to, because why do we track KPIs? That's the question I always ask, because I'm a numbers guy, as you know. Like, I have spreadsheets galore. And one thing I always try to be self-aware of is those numbers are telling a story. So I need to make sure that, yeah, we input the numbers into the scoreboard and we track our suspensions and we track our leg, but how are we changing our strategy because of what a number says, right? And that's really what we have to do with KPIs, is make sure that we take action, whether that be in rewarding the team because you had a great month because a KPI got crushed, or like right now, a specific example for us, at risk, which is the number for us. It's a KPI we pay attention to a lot. I spoke about it earlier. It's the number of people who did not show in the previous week, right? And that number for us is typically around 40 or 50 people. And right now, that's kind of normal, 40 to 50 people. And that sounds like a lot, but when you have almost 400 people you're managing in a week in August, it's not terrible. Well, the last couple of weeks, it's been in the 70s. And so we can just keep inputting that number, and we're focused on, connecting to people on Anomaly, trying to text them, trying to connect with them, pay attention to their trends. But I was kind of beating my head against the wall saying, what else can we do? Why are 70 people at risk right now? Is it our program? Are people not excited to be here? Like what? I mean, obviously there's, we're filming this and still in the middle of a COVID pandemic, and the Delta variant's going up a little bit. And there's hundreds of variables at play. But ultimately what my point is that I'm looking at that number. I'm recognizing that it's higher than what it historically is. And as a team, we are creating strategies or actions to change that number and then watch it over time.
No, this is brilliant. You know what? You just gave me a great idea about bringing in that number as on top, because I know the number, right? Like right now, I'm telling you how many people not showed up, but I'm not counting it up. I can definitely do that. And I'll think about that more, but just sidetrack. And Doug, I think we can do 10 more episodes, one episode on KPIs, one episode on just this milestone. I would love to just talk more about this milestone. Just, there's so many things. Just tell me your calendar. Maybe we can just put it out for the next 5 episodes and just keep going, man, because that's a lot of wealth of information here. So thank you again. I appreciate you taking out the time. I really do.
Yeah, no problem, man. I love it.